Okay. Għatu ftit ċans naraw jekk jidħol xi ħadd ieħor nibdew. Ta'
Okay.
So, good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank you all for coming to this year's Majors talk. For those who have joined us yesterday, welcome back, and for those that joined us today, thank you for joining. Basically, the scope of this meeting is to help current BCom students make a more informed decision when it comes to choosing their majors. In this meeting today, we shall be discussing marketing, public policy, and management. I would also like to thank Dr. Emanuel Bezzina, Dr. Anne-Marie Take, and Professor Frank Bezzina for joining us, together with Sarah Island and Andre Camilleri. Starting off this talk is the head of Department of Marketing, Dr. Emanuel Said.
Thank you, Jake. For a moment, I guess the students might have thought that Professor Bezzina and myself are brothers, but we're not related in any way. In fact, even my surname is different anyway. So you're forgiven anyway, Jake. So, ladies, gentlemen, although I can't see you, welcome. I hope to be seeing you in class for marketing, but I will have to tell you why marketing will be an important aspect of your career. Let's put it this way. Without marketing, you probably won't even be at university, because marketing is an interdisciplinary area. Anything in this world that needs to be consumed, bought, or otherwise, in one way or another, absorbed, needs marketing. You may need money to buy that. You may need the intelligence to think about it, but most importantly, without marketing, there's absolutely nothing that you will buy, that you will eat, that you will drink, that you will in one way or other enjoy. That, my friends, is why marketing is something that relates to any sector, any industry, any profession, any creed, any religion, anything. Now, before making such bold statements, allow me to tell you what marketing really involves. It involves, most importantly, an assessment, an idea of what your buyers, of what target audiences really want. If we don't know what audiences really want to consume, want to buy, want in one way or another experience, then there is absolutely no way that you can put something on the market that will be bought. But most importantly, knowing that what people want, or what your audiences want, will help you make or render an offering that is in demand. What makes the difference between Apple, just to mention one brand, and a brand you've never heard? It's very simple. It's because Apple might have the insight of what their consumers, what their customers really want, whereas the brands that you've never heard about simply don't know about you and don't know what you want. How do we get there? It's a process. It's a process that relates to making your offer available, making the offer in one way or another tangible that can be experienced, and making an offer known to your target audiences. My friends, I'm talking about the 4 basic marketing strategies. We're talking about communications, advertising, promotion, literature, whatever you name it. We're talking about product development or offering development, and also ensuring that your offering is available. So we're talking about distribution. Now, of course, there's a price to pay. So pricing also comes into the equation. Getting there, as I said, is a process. None of these marketing strategies can be enabled, can be implemented in isolation. They all go hand in hand, which is why we have structured your next 2 years, should you opt or should you decide to pursue your marketing strategies, marketing studies, into a step-by-step approach in learning how marketers do it. Learning how to do it relates to, first of all, researching what audiences want, what your target consumers want, and how you can segment your markets into sizable chunks that can be targeted specifically. Knowing what your target markets want means that you can design your offering. Now, in designing offerings, we don't look at specific products, but we look at holistic offerings. An offering is what offers value to your consumers. I make an emphasis on value because value is the target, or I would say the key word in any marketing strategy, in any marketing activity. If there's no value for your target consumers, then that offering simply won't work. It's a matter of why offerings are important for consumers that makes consumers buy your offering. It's as simple as that. But value is an elusive concept. It's something that has so many dimensions. Some people try to define value as the difference between sacrifices and benefits. To me, value is the net benefit. What kind of benefits do you accrue from a product, from an offering? That is the whole idea behind your first year of marketing strategies or of marketing studies. So you learn how to undertake research, you learn how to plan advertising and promotion, and you learn how to actually engage in selling the product to your customers. Next semester will relate to actually implementing these strategies and looking into specifics like pricing, like retailing. Allow me to like making your offerings to other members of your supply chain, business to business marketing. But there's also an element of interpretation. There's also an element that is rendering marketing more relevant than anything else, and that is digital marketing. We look at how your communications, your offerings, your supply chain can be implemented entirely digitally, online. And that makes your product available not only to your target customers in one country, but to target customers across the entire globe. During the second year of your studies, and that would be your final year of your BCom studies, we look into more specific methods, more specific technical approaches into rendering your marketing profession tangible. So we look into statistical analysis. Why? Because without numbers, we cannot size our markets. If we can't size our markets, we cannot know whether an offering is feasible or not in the first place. Besides, statistical analysis helps us gauge what consumers really want and how they want our products to evolve, our offerings to evolve. We also look at how to price offerings. Should we go for a low price and then make sure that we hit every corner of this globe, even though that might sound like impossible? Or shall we start with a high price just to ensure that we get the image right across our target consumers? The third, again, we delve deeper into web science. We delve deeper into how we implement strategies online, how we implement e-commerce, how we implement sales through online channels. And we're not talking about Amazon. We're not talking about eBay. We're talking about more specialized channels that retailers, that service providers use these days. During the second semester, we look at something that is less tangible. This time, we focus on services. Why? Because for every product that we put on the market, there's a service tied to it. Just imagine, our economy is 70% dependent on finances, on gross domestic product that is retained, that is earned from services provision. The other 30% from manufacturing. Just to imagine how important services are in marketing. Then we also look at strategies. How do we implement these elements? How do we implement specific strategies in one holistic plan? How can we beat competition or perhaps compete with competition? rather than against. Why do we learn these? Why do we have to go into these intricacies? Why do we have to go into these areas, into these theories? It's very simple. Because whatever you do in life, you will have to use marketing. And marketing can lead you to brilliant careers. If you think that marketing is very specific and marketing doesn't lead you to anywhere, well, ask your graduates, ask your colleagues, ask the people you know who have graduated in marketing, and ask them which jobs they have applied and successfully occupied these days. You will find that some of them have actually found top-paying jobs in the gaming industry. Others have found top-paying jobs in media, or even in the banking and finance sector. Not to mention any other industry, any other service industry that is paying good money for good marketeers. One project that comes to mind is also the year-long essay or market research project. This is the last step that will happen during your undergraduate studies, during the last year of your studies. It is a real life situation. It is a real life project relating to a real life problem. How do you render a product marketable? How do you render a product that is more exciting to your target audiences, which requires you to go into the field, collect data, and use that data to come up with tangible recommendations for a marketeer. I think that's all I had to tell you about our stream of studies. And I would welcome questions from you.
Yes, we do have a question, in fact, already. Someone asked, will marketing be structured similar to research methods? We had the study unit this year, it was called research methods. Someone asked, will marketing be structured similar to research as we had it in first year, please?
Well, that research study unit is actually structured for all study units, for all themes, for all areas of study, notwithstanding whether it's marketing, finance, economics, or whatever the case is. Our marketing, our marketing project or market research project will rely very much on your market research, on your research studies that you've had so far. It will actually require you to relate to those principles and actually implement them in your project. But it's not related to the entire marketing program, not to the entire marketing stream. As I mentioned, there are so many different study units.
Okay.
I can add something, Manny.
Sure.
Obviously, the reason why that has a marketing code is simply because you had a study unit called Writing Skills that was offered by the Department of Marketing. And since we could not find a unit which was so-called, as we may call it, redundant, we actually revamped that marketing study unit so that it becomes research methods. The reason why we introduced research methods in the first year is because students used to tell us, but listen, why did you teach us how to reference a source, or how did you teach us how to conduct an analysis in the third year? This was more important also in the second year and in the first year. That is why. So please do not associate research methods with just marketing. That is a unit which is relevant for all majors. In fact, students, most students in accountancy, if they don't cover it in the first, second, and third year, used to take the study unit in the fourth year, like extra, you know, because they had a dissertation in the fifth year. That is why we introduced it in the first year. So although it has an MRK code, it has nothing to do with marketing. That is a unit which is relevant for all study units.
Okay, if anyone else has any more questions, you can do so by asking in the Q&A section. Questions will be anonymously. If anyone doesn't, we'll see if anyone pops up a question. If not, we can move on to our next talk. I would like to thank you, Dr. Emmanuel Said, for your time.
Thank you, Jake.
We can move on to the next head of department, which is Dr. Anne-Marie Take, the head of Department of Public Policy. Whenever you're ready, you can start. And thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Jacob. Sorry, I came in just now. Allow me maybe to share a very short PowerPoint so that everybody can see exactly what I would be talking about. Can you give me a minute, please?
Yes, yes, of course.
Okay. Okay. Can everybody see this, or can you see this, Jake? Maybe you can confirm.
For now, we can't see it with the share screen. Maybe did you?
Hold on a second, please. I'm sorry. I apologize for this. Let me just.
Let me check if it's available.
Can't understand what happened. Let me just double check again. Okay. Ah, yes, here it is. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
All right. So you can see
right.
this. Very good.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay. First of all, good afternoon, everybody. Today we are talking here about, your choices when it comes to whether, you wish to consider public policy and another major, okay, in your second year. Allow me to begin with what I will talk to you about vis-a-vis, staff members, like the mission statement, why study public policy, what our programs are, what you learn from our actual programs. A word maybe about student placements, choosing your majors, and prospects, job prospects and roles. Okay, so these are some of the staff members. We have two new members. Sorry, we have one new member, but two people who are going to retire. So there's going to be a little bit of changes in staff members. So my question to you is, why choose public policy? And this is a question we are very often, encounter, and, we need to explain sort of the importance of why public policy is an alternative option. So this is our mission statement. And in public policy, we try to empower students, to take up leadership positions in public and private organizations by developing cutting-edge competencies in policymaking, politics, and governance. Very often when you hear the word public policy, we tend to associate it with government. But the reality is that there are many public policy graduates who today work in the private sector as well. I am a classic example, where I have worked in both the public, in the parastatal, and in the private organizations. So there are opportunities within the private sector if this is an area that you might be questioning. Okay, so what does public policy give you? And here we're looking at analysis, skills of analysis, decision-making, critical thinking, which very often employers ask for when they look at graduates. It could be in the service sector, for example, ICT, in auditing, in compliance, or when you have enough experience, you might go into consultancy, in the European Union institutions, or of course, politics and governance and government. These are some of our programs, and I'm mentioning these because when you come to choose your options, public policy, let's say, and another major, you need to think of whether you intend to read for a postgrad, in other words, a master's degree. Why am I saying this? Because we have the MSc in Public Policy and Strategic Management, very similar to the other MScs of the faculty as well. Maybe Dr. Said has mentioned this, the other two MScs related to strategic management and digital marketing and marketing, where the requirements to be able to get into an MSc are either in management or in public policy for the MSc in Public Policy and Strategic Management. So in a way, the decision needs to be made now for eligibility into the MSc, if that is something that you want to think about. It will be a day program where you have a number of lectures during the day, and it would be 1.5 years, the MSc. The other masters we have is an MA Public Policy Leadership, and then there's the MBA Executive, which is more related to public management. So what do you learn when you read for a public policy degree? We've divided it into 4 areas. Okay, these are the 4 pillars of public policy. Yes, we talk about politics and institutions. We would focus a lot on policy and management sciences, behavioral sciences, and skills. So these are the 4 pillars when you pursue when you read for a degree in public policy and another major. Okay, so the 10 skills you will need by 2022. So we looked at the World Economic Forum, and these are the skills that are expected, okay, from people, of course, who are in the labor market. Some are analytical and innovative, active learning, creative, original and taking initiative, technological design, complex problem solving, leadership and influence, emotional intelligence, reasoning and creating ideas, forming ideas and concepts, and analyzing systems and evaluating them. Okay, so these are determined by this World Economic Forum going forward in 2022. We also offer in 3rd year, BCom, Public Policy and another major. The Department of Public Policy actually organizes what is called a student placement. This is compulsory. And what it does is that it integrates your practical experience with theoretical knowledge. Sorry about that. Let me go back. And this would help you to do a number of things. One of them is gaining practical experience. Good, it looks good on your CV when you come to employ, when you come to, look for a job and people employ you, you would have that, focused practical experience, which would relate very much to what you are learning at university. So you would learn about the profession. It would also prepare you eventually for your dissertation if you decide to pursue an MSc or an MA or a master's, whichever. And of course, then the importance of relevant business skills. Okay, so here a work placement has its benefits, okay, of developing certain skills that you may not have been aware of, or maybe that you need to work on. These are some of the placements, these are some of the companies that some of our students have carried out. We had Malta Council for Science and Technology, Foundation for Human Resource Development, Malta Stock Exchange, PwC, FHRD. There have been a number of these, and this was the students' feedback that we received. So Frank had told us it was a great way to gain organizational skills and understanding. Annelise told us that she gained a good reference from her employer. And Bernard said there's only so much you can learn in a lecture room. If you want to be ready for a job after university, you need to have some experience of a real workplace. So now we come to choosing your majors. Now, public policy and maybe economics, or public policy and management. And just to mention one area, so for example, in economics, the 2 subjects are rooted in the same field of study, that is political economy. They share many assumptions and analytical methods. And graduates in these majors have an exceptionally adaptable base for graduate study. With this degree, public policy and economics, you can possibly, be a graduate where you can read for European studies. You can work in finance and banking, political philosophy and international relations, besides specializing either in economics or in public policy itself. If you consider public policy and management, graduates in these majors qualify for a variety of roles in private, public, and non-profit organizations. And here as a graduate, you can enter most of the various fields of commerce, public and private enterprises, and related areas at mid-level positions. Then there are choices between public policy and accountancy, or public policy and banking and finance, or public policy and marketing. And all these show you that public policy fits in very well with any of these 3 disciplines. Of course, the more knowledge you have, so let's take, for example, accountancy, okay? How can you be an accountant without knowing the public policies, okay, that will help companies, for example, save money? It would be sad to know that as an accountant, you are not up to date with these, and these will obviously help you in helping your clients. Take banking and finance. Today, there's so much regulation and legislation. It isn't enough to say, I know these in banking and finance, but what are the policies, okay, that, and the regulatory frameworks that exist, in banks and their public philosophies. Marketing, this might come as a surprise, like how does marketing and public policy? But as you know, there's been a great amount of marketing, okay, of services by the public sector itself, and also even the private sector. So this is a one way, it's an alternative way as well of having, you know, a diverse background in marketing together with public policy. These are some of our students, not students, now graduates, of course, you know, who've told us a little bit about what they thought about public policy, as you know, when they considered choosing the subject. And Claire Hollier, she's a senior economist in international trade, and she told us, you know, that her studies was a key to an enabling work experience. We had Alan Bahajar, who told us that empowering ethical leadership and good governance, and he works for the MUSAC, for Malta EU Steering and Action Committee. Now we have a number of public employers. So these are some of these employers, like the government of Malta would employ public policy students, the Malta Communications Authority, Transport Malta, NGOs, National Audit Office. Okay, so these are just some of the employers related to public institutions. Let's look at parastatal employers. So we have META, we have public policy graduates who work for NSO, the Chamber of Commerce, MUSAC, Malta Tourism Authority, Malta Enterprise, NCPE. And with private employers, we've had the Malta International Airport or the Malta Independent. We've had the American Embassy, European Commission, Deloitte, PwC, APS Bank, Gutenberg. So some of these, you know, employers, you know, vary depending on obviously the interests and very much what the actual student would like to work in, or where he or she would like to work in. But as you can see, it is not only restricted to the public sector. It's parastatal organizations and also private employers. Some of the roles in organizations, because very often they say, okay, public policy. So it's like when you choose medicine, you say, I'm a doctor because I've chosen medicine. So in public policy, what are you? And really, mainly, the role is a policy analyst or an analyst. Now, it depends on what you're analyzing. It could be a policy researcher. It could be actually a consultant, eventually over a number of years, or an EU manager. Or if you're interested in unions, you'd be a trade unionist or an HR manager, project support officer, international desk officer, or policy and training manager, training coordinator, executive secretary, local councils. So these are just a few, okay, obviously roles that organizations have employed public policy graduates to fill in. Of course, with their background, their knowledge, and with their analysis, they have moved beautifully into both public, parastatal, and private organizations. You can find out more about us on the department's website. And thank you very much for listening on.
Thank you very much, Dr. Take. Okay. If anyone has any questions, they can do so in the Q&A section, as I said earlier. Now we can move to Andrea Camilleri, a former student in public policy, who will give us his experience within studying public policy.
Yes, thank you. When I came to deciding which subjects to choose, normally they start telling you about economics, about accounts, about banking, and I said, all right, I'm going to choose banking, but then I would be needing another subject. And I said, I looked at policy and the subject that they offer, and I said, why not? Let's take public policy. And I had never the intention of continuing masters in public policy, but during the 2 years that I spent for my degree analyzing public policy, studying public policy, I came to actually deciding at the end of the third year that I'm going to do my master's in public policy for very simple reasons, being that in public policy, unlike in other subjects, you don't simply remember everything by heart. You study what you are seeing, everything that goes around you, you study. I never thought that, for example, subjects such as regulations, such as politics, such as how institutions work, you would analyze them from that perspective. You can actually understand what you are learning rather than just simply the teacher, the lecturer giving you information, you just learn everything by heart. You start to recognize and learn exactly how the world around you works. And as Dr. Take was saying, the student placement that I had for the third year was very important. I went to do it with a private company, and they agreed for me to do the placement with them. It shows that public policy is not simply something for public institutions only, it works also in the private sector. And when I went to, again, after the school had finished and went to search for a summer job, I applied again with them, and they happily agreed with me because I had already worked with them, knew how they would work. So I emphasize that although it may be seen as additional work, it's something that is very fruitful, and later on you will recognize the huge importance that it would have not on you only as a person, that you start to recognize that there's a difference between school, the lecture room, and the workplace. You learn new skills. You learn, obviously, going to build relationships with your employees and colleagues. And most importantly, your CV would be much better looking, because employers would say, oh, he worked already, not just simply for what he did and brought good grades at school without any experience. That is for my part, and I encourage students to take public policy because you can learn something extra, not just simply something you learn from school only. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea. If we don't have any questions, first of all, I would also like to thank again Dr. Take and Andrea for joining us and for their time. Now we can move on to Professor Frank Bezzina, who is the head of Department of Management, to give us his talk.
So hello everyone. The first thing that you'll ask yourself is, why should I study management? Well, because management actually teaches you how to manage and lead. Now you might tell me, why is this important? Because we want individuals, teams, organizations to meet their full potential. Now, obviously, management cuts across all majors. I strongly believe that management should be transversal. So if the faculty had to start from today, definitely I would not want to see management to be one of the 7 majors, even public policy, but I would want to see management and public policy as common for every single student. Because can you imagine an accounting student not knowing anything about HR, not knowing anything about organizational behavior, not knowing anything about policy? So strictly speaking, unfortunately, we have to compete with majors which are more popular, like accountancy and banking and finance. But in reality, the skills that you learn from management, as well as public policy and as well as marketing, I think they are important for every single student. What are practically the pillars within our department? So first, you have the area of strategy and international business. Obviously, here there's a big emphasis on intrapreneurship and entrepreneurship. And what's changed during the last years is that we have strengthened this area. For instance, now in the second year, you have a study unit, a compulsory study unit in the first semester, and another in the second semester, delivered by Louis Naudi. In the third year, we also introduced the J Startup Entrepreneur for the first time this year. Now, obviously, we had a number of students who were complaining, but why is this a compulsory study unit? We don't want it. Why is it possible that we have, for instance, in 3 particular sessions, we have to meet, for instance, at the hall in Hilton, and then we have a number of mentors? Why is this not held during university hours? Now, although there were a number of complaints in this regard, I can assure you that the number of positive messages that we received from students after they did these study units was totally different from what they thought before. I am also pleased to note that a group of students under the name of Styles participated with 17,000 participants in the European startup entrepreneurship competition from 500 universities, and our university placed third. Okay, so that was a very big plus. Okay, so when you have students sometimes complaining with the rector, sometimes complaining with the registrar, some even resorting to the minister to try and stop us from trying to create a bridge between theory and practice. But luckily we believe that this was important and we pushed this forward. A second area, which is also very important, is the area of human resources management and development, as well as organizational behavior. And the third one is operations management and supply chain management. Obviously, this is not only about manufacturing, but there is also a big focus on service excellence. A fourth area, which is not normally included in management curricula, is the area of evidence-based management. Now, you all heard that, for instance, the term evidence-based education, evidence-based policy. But unfortunately, we never had a subject called evidence-based management. A number of management gurus realized that this was a big flaw in management. Unfortunately, management positions were being occupied or are still occupied by persons who never studied management. So you're an accountant or else you're a pharmacist, you're going to get a promotion, you're going to become a manager, you have no skills in management, and yet you become a manager because you have a very strong background in pharmaceuticals. Now, the problem is that studies constantly show that those persons who have a lot of experience are more likely to hold faulty notions and misconceptions than those who have less experience. What I'm trying to say here is not that experience is not important, but experience needs to be compounded or combined with knowledge. So experience becomes very relevant when you have the necessary knowledge, but no experience makes up for lack of knowledge. So this is another area which I mentioned is evidence-based management, with an emphasis also on decision modeling. In the management course, you have a study unit called operations research. Now, operations research, another word for it would be management science or else decision modeling. The emphasis here is that we want our students to make decisions that are more data-driven, that are more evidence-based. And that is why we introduced the fourth pillar. I'm also pleased to know that we were one of the very first few universities in the world, if not the first, to introduce the unit evidence-based management. Soon after, we had one of the top universities in New York who has introduced this, and now through our collaborations, we are offering this in a large number of universities across Europe. The reason why we introduced it, because both me and Professor Vizcassar are members of CEBMA, which is the Center for Evidence-Based Management in Holland, and we actually collaborate directly with them. Now, while I'm talking about management here, I would also like to tell you what this leads to. So imagine you study in the second year and the third year, you decide to study either management or marketing or public policy. Now I'm telling you all this because I'm wearing a bigger hat. You know, I happen to be the dean of the faculty, and so I cannot focus only on management. So for those of you who want to further their studies in any of these three areas, after your third year, you can actually embark on a master's degree. And we have what we call the MSc in Strategic Management and Marketing. We have another MSc in Strategic Management and Digital Marketing. We have also an MSc in Strategic Management and Public Policy, right? Now, if you have management as one of your majors, you can opt for any one of these three. Obviously, if you study management, if you study marketing, you can still opt for the strategic management and marketing or digital marketing. Similarly, if you study public policy, you can opt for strategic management and public policy. Apart from these three master's programs, we are going to introduce a new MSc next year. So you'll be among this probably the second cohort that will be able to choose this. It's an MSc in Data Analytics for Strategic HR. So it's focused on HR, Human Resources Management, but with an emphasis on data, on how to analyze data. And obviously, although in this degree there's going to be the use of software and use of programming. We will be teaching students these skills from scratch. So we're going to assume that you have no idea of any form of coding and you never used any program before. Any questions from your end?
If anyone has any questions, they can do so once again through the Q&A, but we'll give it a minute. Maybe we wait for some questions. We can go for Sarah Isle, who was a student studying management and marketing, who will give us her experience studying both majors. Thank you, Sarah, for joining us, and thank you, Professor Frank Bezzina.
Welcome.
Thank you. So good afternoon. I just recently graduated with a Bachelor of Commerce degree with majors in marketing and management. I will be briefly talking about my experience as a student with both majors. So I'm starting with marketing. As a marketing student, we will be covering topics that are related to advertising, consumer behavior, public relations, and analytics, just to name a few. As the previous lecturer has said, they're all topics that, these are all topics that you will come across in a typical marketing profession. Marketing is necessary for a company, therefore many job opportunities may arise from a marketing major. Something that I really enjoyed as a student was that marketing is very practical, meaning that you are not required to learn everything by heart, but you can use real life examples and to learn. It's not everything by heart. Almost all the units are assignment based, which is personally something that I really enjoyed, as I got to actually carry out my own research and find my own examples and learn. What I want to say is that marketing requires you to have a passion for the subject. So like, don't choose marketing as your major if you are not passionate about it, because there is a lot of competition. Therefore, you need to be passionate about it if you want to get the best results. Job-wise, as soon as I finished my third year, I did an internship in a marketing position with the financial sector. And I'm currently pursuing my master's in digital marketing and working in a marketing position in the retail industry. On the other hand, management, it's a subject which can be chosen with any other major, as it allows you to learn about strategy. It can be applied whether it's accounting, marketing, economics. Like they have already said, management is quite essential. I remember we had a particular study unit where we had to learn, where we were taught how to give presentations and how to improve our communication skills. And I thought that was quite an interesting unit, as it was completely practical. And if you are working in any company, you will be required to give presentations and speak publicly at some point. In fact, I have been doing presentations during my internship as well as my current job. So I thought that was very useful. Overall, I have enjoyed my time studying both majors. I would definitely choose them again. And I highly recommend choosing management as your major if you intend to pursue a master's degree in marketing, as the master's programs are in management and marketing. That's it, basically.
Thank you very much, Sarah, for your time. We have a question actually for Professor Frank Bezzina. Someone asked, for Sarah, is previous knowledge of marketing a requirement for choosing marketing as a major?
No, it's not necessary. I've had friends who had never had marketing. I've had friends who had marketing. Maybe you will be more familiar with the terms, but it will start completely from the beginning. So it's not necessary to have any background in marketing, because you will learn all the basics.
If I can add something, normally students struggle more in the management units, in the masters, than in the marketing study units. And reason being that most marketing study units are assignment based. Okay? But normally students who never studied strategy before, or students who never studied HR before would tend to struggle in the masters. In fact, the best combination for the MSc in Strategic Management and Marketing or Digital Marketing would be to have management and marketing as your majors, because that would facilitate everything. Obviously, if one of them missing, it would mean that you need to make additional reading to make up for what you missed.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor Bezzina and Sarah. If we don't have any more questions, no, we can bring this meeting to an end. Thank you once again, Professor Bezzina, Dr. Anne-Marie Take, Sarah, and Andre, and the head of department of management.
Dr. Said, I think.
And Dr. Said, thank you. I blinked. For joining us. We have a question actually. What is the best subject to choose with marketing? I guess it was been answered. Management, right? The mic.
There is no best subject, right? It depends. But if you want to go for an MSc in marketing, then obviously management and marketing go together. If you want to go for an MSc in public policy, then obviously management and public policy will go really well together. So the decision has to be taken on what is your main priority.
Okay, and we have another question. How is the structure for the electives?
I'm not sure if they mean by electives or optional study units here. For instance, in management, we have, for instance, students can opt between change management and cross-cultural management. So they have to choose one or the other during a particular semester. When it comes to optional study units, we normally leave a large number of study units available for students, and from them they just need to choose normally one in a semester and another one in another semester. Okay, like for instance, you know, you might be interested in studying innovation with another faculty, okay, or another institute. You can do that. Or else you prefer, for instance, to study a particular language. Or you might even want to choose, there's a study unit called, for instance, badminton, if I'm not mistaken. There was a push so that we teach multi-students the game of badminton. So there's a study unit called badminton. You might also want to choose, for instance, career and job search skills, which is delivered by Joseph Side of Connect. So their students are taught how to prepare a CV, how to prepare themselves for an interview, how to dress during an interview, how to act, how to answer questions, the posture, etc. So there are various study units, and these are called optional study units. And obviously, you might want to choose a study unit which is in public policy, and you don't have public policy, or in an introduction, for instance, to banking and finance, or introduction to algorithmic trading, you know. So in that case, you have a large number of study units to choose them. When it's an elective, it's normally a choice between one or the other. But we don't have many electives in management. We just have one second semester where students have to choose between cross-cultural management and organizational development and change.
We have another question. Someone asked, is accounts a good subject to choose with management?
The natural complement that should accompany accounts is normally management. But in recent years, and because of different trends, we saw, for instance, students who normally, for instance, opt accountancy and public policy stand out, because if you have a knowledge of policy in accounting, it makes a big difference. But normally, the subject that is normally chosen with accounting is management.
Okay.
But if you want to be unique, then you have to do something different.
All right. We have a question regarding public policy. Is there any electives in public policy, or are most subjects mandatory?
Yes, there are the answer is yes, most of them are mandatory. I think there is one or two that is elective. When I say I think, because it's related to non-governmental organizations, and aspects of supranational governance. That is an elective, but
okay.
They're very.
But that's something across the board, right? Right, Dr. Take. Nobody has many.
If I can jump in, Jake, because it's something that I maybe didn't mention in my presentation, and I think maybe it would help the students as well to see that in public policy, particularly, we also organize a trip to the EU institutions okay, for students. And this is generally, it generally takes place in the second semester. Of course, now because of COVID, we'll have to see. But going forward, hopefully, and whenever, you know, things settle down, the trip is generally 2 or 3 days, you know, but the students learn a great deal. When they come back, you see them change. So that is something that we organize internally for our students, you know, at second or third year. Okay, so we organize this every year. For students to actually go to visit the institutions, you know, together with their peers, with their colleagues, you know, students, fellow students. That is one thing I want to mention. If you don't mind, I'm just going to bring in the next thing, and I'm sure the Dean will have something to say as well on this, is that the faculty encourages Erasmus mobility. You know, we are trying to, you know, get students to actually take an Erasmus opportunity, which means there are 2 programs. I'm sure maybe this you will hear from the Erasmus, the international, department, and maybe the Dean can say something as well on this. There are 2 types of programs. One that is generally called an Erasmus traineeship, which takes place in summer generally, okay? And the other one is the Erasmus mobility, where you spend a semester in another country. Now, with public policy, you won't find the exact titles or the exact study units in that semester similar to another university in another country, but we look at sort of similar topics. So let me give you an example. If there is, let's say, ethics, okay, and public policy, okay, we don't have a study unit called ethics and public policy. We have public policy, we have ethics, but they're not together. But in another country, in another university, they may have actually this study unit, and we would sign off for you. Okay, that is from my point of view as public policy, and I'm sure the other heads will do so, where you get this opportunity. So we've had a number of students, for example, who've carried out their Erasmus, let's say at this present last year, it was in Cork, in Ireland, okay? It was in Vilnius. So what I'm trying to say is that we try and look at the program, we help the student find where he or she would like to carry out his Erasmus, you know, and of course we would definitely encourage this, because this is something that once in a lifetime, shall we say, you know, as when you're a student, of course. Okay, so I thought, Jake, that might be something they might be of interest.
Thank you very much, Dr. Take. I have another question in regards to marketing and management. Does marketing and management consist of any maths and statistics?
So in the second year, are you hearing me?
Yes, yes, yes.
So in the second year, you have a unit in management called operations research, which is normally based on maths and statistics, but it is an applied subject. So in reality, you don't really have to do any complicated mathematics. So there is no integration, there is no or calculus, there is no summation. It's just a formula. And either you substitute some numbers into a formula which is provided, so that then you get an answer which you need to interpret, or else you're given direct output using software which you need to interpret. In the masters, there is also another study unit called management science, which is similar to this. They're not the same topic, so one does not build on the other, but it's very similar. This type of unit is normally called decision modeling or decision analysis. Okay, but no, I don't think you have any more study units which are more similar to your maths and statistics, where you have to do computations manually. In the marketing, there is also a unit on data analytics, but it's on how to use SPSS.
Okay. And I don't know if Sarah could answer in regards to marketing, because Dr. Said is no longer with us. We have a question. Do accounts and maths go together? Do accounts and marketing, go together as a major? I don't know if you could answer it.
I think Professor Bezzino could.
Normally, accounts goes more naturally with management. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But as I said, for instance, when I was young, okay, I decided to study business statistics. And then I decided to link business statistics with organizational psychology. Back then, it didn't make sense. 5 years, 10 years down the line, if there were 20 job offers at university, I could fit into any one of them, you know? So sometimes, although it's not the norm to choose accountancy and marketing, but if you offer yourself the opportunity of being unique, you know, there's always an advantage in that. But normally, no, accountancy normally goes with either economics or management.
Okay. That brings us to an end for this meeting. I once again thank Dr. Said, Professor Bezzina, and Dr. Tink for joining us and for their time together with Sarah and Andrea. I hope that you all found these meetings informative to help you make a better decision. I encourage you to enter in the next talk that we have regarding to industries, the industrial talks, which will be held at 5, if I'm not mistaken. On the whole, I wish you all a great summer and thank you for joining us.
Thanks to you for hosting this event.
Thank you.
Thank
Pleasure.
you.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.